Hi, this is for my interpersonal communication class. My name is Professor Barry Brennan, and today we're going to just be discussing virtual communication, looking at how social media intersects our interpersonal relationships and affects our interpersonal relationships. So let's go straight to the PowerPoint. Hope you're having a good day today. Here we go. So this is the world we live in now, right? It's kind of a normal thing that we do. It's part of our, especially you who are watching this, you young people, this is what's normal in terms of your interaction. And so a lot of this might feel a little redundant, but I want us to kind of be reflective about it. Um, I know we live in this world, but we're going to try to be a little reflective about how we live in this world and what's the meaning of it and understanding the differences between various different ways of communicating virtually. And so hopefully we're going to kind of get a good idea of that. Let's take a look. So when we're talking about social media, mediated communication, CMC, what exactly, or let's define it, okay? So social media is any form of electronic communication through which online communities are created. Okay, so social media, the purpose of it is, right, to create an online community like Facebook, huge online community, right? And even in Facebook, there's online communities within Facebook, like under different pages or groups or events, right? So it's to create, even in Twitter, online community, who you follow, who follows you, and Instagram, like who follows you. There's so many, you all know this already. So when we mean by mediated communication, we mean making a interpersonal connection with through an electronic channel rather than face to face. Okay, so as we are having classes online, that's what we're doing. We are having mediated communication. So it's different than face to face. Even if we can see our face, it's still virtual. There's still a channel in which we are communicating through. And as you know, I mean, just stick with that idea for a minute. As you know, when we Zoom classes, sometimes we're frozen in time, right? The internet speed isn't good enough, or there's some interference in some way. So when it comes to the internet or electronics, there's always a chance that that can create, if you remember the model of communication, that's like a noise, right? That's going to create an interference. So this understanding mediated communication, or even social media, or what we call CMC, that's the formal name for computer mediated communication, is to understand that there's issues, right? There's issues in terms of, at least with face to face, when you're in the presence of someone. I mean, unless someone passes out or dies, you're like there virtually the whole time. You're there in the presence of that person. And so the interferences are less, right? They're not going to freeze, right? Unless they get like beamed up by the alien ship or something, right? I'm making a joke. But the point is, it's different. So let's look at the similarities and differences. So CMC is going to stand for computer mediated communication, and FTF stands for face to face. Okay, you'll see that if you do any kind of research on these kinds of things, you're going to see that FTF, or it could be a 2, face to face. CMC stands for computer mediated communication. And people have been studying this since we started this. This is not a new study of how people. So some of the similarities between face to face and computer mediated communication. Let's look at that. So we have, when we say commensurate communication goals, it means we're after the same thing. What are our communication goal? What is it? I want you to think about what that is right now. What is it that we're after? If you think about the definition of communication, what have you learned in this class? Right, we're all after shared meaning, right? We're all after the same, we want to understand each other. That's shared meaning, understanding each other. So it's also both transactional, right? There's a give and take. There's a transaction happening. Now, it may not be happening at the same time, but it is transactional. It requires a response. It requires a response of some sort. Similar communication processes apply, meaning I talk, you respond or give me feedback, and somehow it doesn't even have to be a feedback. Could be like, right, like a thumbs up, like a like. Now Facebook has so many other options. It has a laughing, it has a heart, it has an embrace, like care. It's got something that shows sadness, another emoji. I'm talking about emojis. It's got anger, right? Emojis, there's all kinds of emojis. Same principles apply in terms of emotional reaction, what you say, trying to communicate the nonverbal piece of it, to acknowledge. Okay? Differences. Richness versus leanness. So let's help you understand what this means. So richness has to do with all the things that happen in face-to-face, right? All the nuance. So when you're in face-to-face, not only can you see the person's expression, right? You can see them. You can smell them, right? This is the richness. You could smell them. If they're wearing a cologne or perfume, or they ate garlic last night, right? These are the things that we take for granted in face-to-face, but these are the things that we can take notice of. There's no way to know any of that in computer-mediated communication. There's no way to know any of that. Now, in virtual, where you can see the person's face, you can see people's expressions. But I would argue that the fact that there's a camera may actually make people more reserved in expressing themselves, unless they get used to the camera. That they might be more reserved because they're aware that they're on camera. Okay? So as opposed to if we were face to face, there might be more authentic and natural kind of communication. So that's what we mean by richness, is all the nuances that are in face to face that are lost in computer mediated communication. And so richness versus leanness. So it becomes more lean, less, right? Okay. Then we've got synchronous versus asynchronous. What do I mean by that? I think I've talked about this in this class. So synchronous, I mean, this is what we're happening in class right now, right? Is I'm having these optional Zoom classes, and they're optional. Essentially, the class is asynchronous, meaning you get to watch the lectures whenever it works for you. You could watch them at midnight, 2 in the morning, at 7 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, whatever you want. You have deadlines, but the class is essentially asynchronous, right? There's no meeting time unless I say, let's meet. And it's always optional because the class is essentially asynchronous, meaning you could be working and then do what you have to do with this class, submit the assignments, and be done for the week, right? Now, synchronous is when we meet face-to-face, when we have a Tuesday, Thursday class, and you have to meet from 2 to 3:15 every Tuesday, Thursday. That's synchronous. We're meeting face-to-face. It's happening while the teaching and the learning is happening at the same time. Thinking of this, we're going to keep using these words, richness versus leanness, synchronous versus asynchronous, when we talk more about computer-mediated communication versus face-to-face. So let's keep going with it. Okay, permanence versus impermanence. This is important. Now, you might think that face-to-face is permanent, but really, it's actually not. That it's more impermanent. In face-to-face communication, this is what happens, is you're in the moment, you're in the now, and everything can evolve and change in the moment. So the person might start out, let's say I'm sure this has happened to you. You met with your friend's in a bad mood. By the end of the conversation you're having with them over coffee or over a drink or having lunch or dinner, they're in a great mood. Okay? The impermanence of the communication, like communication can change right there through that relationship. And the permanence about CMC is everything on the internet that's recorded is recorded. It's like you can't, once you put it out there, there's no way, at least with face-to-face, if you say something wrong, you can immediately apologize and discuss it and get past it. So anything also in that moment, as a moment passes, it's not like recorded in time the way computer-mediated communication. So there's a sense of permanence in what you say. And again, why I say it's so important to how you communicate on discussion board. There's a sense of permanence about that. Your word is your word. You can't like give any extra information with it. It's like there. Okay, let's see where we're going next. All right, so here we go with that. We're going to look at this chart and then I'm going to conclude this part one here. Is giving you an idea of how to look at this impermanence. I'm going to sneeze right now, excuse me. Excuse me. All right. Face-to-face is synchronous, obviously. Rich, just what I was talking about, and low on permanence. Video chat, synchronous, moderately rich because you can't capture everything, right? Low on permanence, unless you're recording it, of course. And I don't think you can record video chat. And this is before Zoom. So this is like FaceTime, that kind of thing. Telephone, synchronous, happening at the same time. Moderately lean, because there's no visuals. Low on permanence. Voicemail, asynchronous. Asynchronous means it's not happening at the same time. So I can leave a voicemail and you'll pick it up whenever you pick it up. That means asynchronous. Moderately lean, hard to read, get anything. Like read beyond the words that are said. Maybe the tone, but it's moderately lean. There's no visuals. There's no added information. And the permanence is it can be stored or deleted, right? So it's moderate. It has a moderate sense of permanence to it. Text message, again, moderate sense of similar to this, but leaner because you can't hear the tone of voice. All you're seeing are the words. And you might have emojis, but it's different. If you know the person, you know people's tones of voice, a lot can be said there. Email, asynchronous, lean. Again, all words, oftentimes stored. So high in permanence. And here we have social media, public, all the social media. I've heard that if you want to delete like an account, whatever it is, it's still stored somewhere. It never goes away. Okay. And then social media, they say typically asynchronous. Now you have things like Facebook Live, would change this termination. Like we would have to redefine what social media, like what kind of social media. But generally speaking, social media is asynchronous. Okay, we're going to stop there and we're going to pick up on the next slide in the next little discussion, and I'll see you there. Okay.